Let's do it. Oh, I didn't check to see. Let me see if I. Yeah, my mic is on. Went live and then with Brad the other day, and then the thing. Here we are. See, didn't even give a warning on us. How you like that one again?
I
Hey
know.
guys, Ron Musgraves, Pressure Washing Institute Contractors First. I'm here tonight with Pat Clark. Man, what a great thing it is. You, however, Pat, are not at you're not in Greenville tonight. Where are you tonight, Pat?
No, I'm in Connecticut at the corporate branch for Bright Brothers.
Super. Not staying at the branch though. They don't have
Not
their own
staying at the
housing.
branch. I'm
Okay.
actually in a cabin up on the land here in Connecticut.
I seen your video today. It's a pretty impressive corporate headquarters, man.
It when
Pretty
you come
impressive.
and see it, it's something to be seen. It's pretty incredible, man. We're on a 50-acre campus with 9 buildings, and it's pretty incredible. The team here is amazing. What is up, Trevor? And yeah, we got a building where we have a house literally in one of our warehouses for training. And you guys saw the training today a little bit on my live video. So it's pretty cool. We have all the things available to, train, mentor. We have the support team, and it just keeps going. And yeah, it's something we wanted to do for a long time. Just didn't have the support to do it. And now we really do.
We're gonna have everybody on this video tonight here. How do you like that?
Yes. What up, Barry?
Yeah, man. What happened? We talked a couple weeks ago, man. We've talked like months ago about doing a little sales video. So
Yeah.
tonight, man, you guys got a special treat here tonight. We're gonna dig into some stuff. Pat, just in the green room, we were just talking about it, and we were just talking about early on. He was like, I'd give him clues and things, but I wouldn't really come out and tell it. And I was wondering if I asked him before the thing. I said, "Hey, did you read my budget letter that I wrote?" And if you guys want to read it yourselves, it's right on my front page. It's pin number 1. If you guys are interested, and one thing Pat and I are talking about tonight, we can touch on some residential stuff, but primarily, Pat knows I'm a commercial guy. That's what I want to talk about. If you want to talk about residential, talk about it with Pat. He's the guy. He's the guy in the industry to talk about the residential stuff with. But he does know, he's one of the few guys that really knows commercial out there. There's a lot of guys out there that think they know what commercial is, but when you really talk to them, they really don't know what commercial is. And there's a lot of guys, and I know you hate this, Pat, but there's a lot of fakers out there that try to tell guys, hey, we can help you with commercial, blah blah blah. But that budget letter that you read on my page, if you don't go read that first, even if you're in
Yeah.
commercial and you've been in commercial and you don't grasp that and wrap your head around that, go do it, because that one little letter will really help you out a ton, and then you'll start doing it. It's funny because you were just talking about that and you're like, yeah, you would give out clues and things like that,
Yeah.
and tell them about what you did, man. The first time you were
Oh,
like,
dude.
because that was
Well,
hilarious. That was hilarious.
you're the original OG, man. So I was like, the residential is good and it was great, right? But that's your cash flow. And I'm like, I need something a little bit bigger to get some more money in here. And I was seeing some of these tickets, right? And so we were you were basically teaching on this stuff. And I'm like, but I need more. And you're like giving little hints here. And I'm going to events and I'm like, okay, but where's the stuff? And so it was either a trade show or something. I can't remember. This is, 15 years ago now, but I was at an event and they were talking about apartments. They were talking about commercial, and it was about CapEx. And I remember sneaking into one of the meetings. It was like they were doing training and they had classrooms set up. And I'm like, you know what? This is the best way to get to know what they're talking about. And so they were talking about budgeting, and everything that's in your letter that you spoke about was like, holy cow, Ron was talking about this stuff. So I sat in on the meeting, and then I'm like, okay, where are they going? So I went to the next classroom and sat in. I'm like, all right. So, but that's, sometimes you got to do that stuff. Is you got to find what I call a navigator that will show you the path, because you don't always know it.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to try to build relationships with people, but we don't know what they do. If we don't know what they do, how can you begin to build a relationship with somebody if
Can't
you don't
relate.
know what they do? And that's why I always try to tell guys, like, it's not about, just the one thing. The relationship thing is everything. But if you go in there and you try to fake that stuff and you're not honest and earnest with it, they're gonna it's like anything. When we know somebody's faking, we know they're faking, and it really looks bad. I mean, when you get caught trying to fake it, it really looks bad. But like, you went there, man, and you're at their organization, you're in their meetings, learning what you're learning what they're being taught. And it's funny because, now you could go up, now you can go to a manager's office. Yeah, yeah. At the convention this year, they taught us about all this new stuff that's coming out. And you're like, and people don't realize too, sometimes those people can't get to those things. So if you're following all of those associations, they do release new information, new tax strategies, ideas, and things like that. And sometimes these managers aren't aware of it. And guys all the time think, well, I'm going to go send them some advertisement. No, go send them the new information that the organization just released out. They're going to read that email. You know what I mean? And you actually put you put the information to the link to the organization stuff. So you got cred that, hey, this is actually real information that I'm trying to pass on to you to make sure.
Valuable.
And then you get people to start reading your emails or start reading your text messages. And then they're, wow, you know what? I'm going to take this call from this Pat Clark guy because he gave me some information that was valuable to me, saved me some money, helped me out, made my job a little bit easier. And then the next thing you know, you build what the number one thing is, but nobody understands this. The relationship's number one, but number two right there, and they're together, is trust. Because if you don't have their trust, you're not even going to anything. Hey, you know what? They can like you, but guess what? If they don't trust you, they're still not going to use you. And that's the thing. There's a big difference between liking somebody and trusting somebody. Okay, because you could be a really good guy. Right? We had the class clown at school. We love the guy, but are we going to hire him to do our stuff? No, because he's a class clown, And so I always try to tell that, and everybody goes, "Oh, but Zig Ziglar said if they like you, they'll buy from you." Yeah, they'll like you if they want to. That's part of the formula. But the trust is number one above anything else once you start building a relationship with somebody, because the bottom line is, and I can prove this, there's lots of people that buy from me that don't like me. There's people that'll call me up on the phone and say, "Ron, you know what? I really don't like you, but guess what? I'm hiring you because you know what? I know you're going to get the job done. I know that we in your industry, you're the guy and you're going to get the job done." And at the end of the day, that's all they care about. And how'd you like the dispel of they're looking for the cheapest guy? Did you catch that paragraph?
Oh yeah, that was
yeah. And
that's
they're not looking for the cheapest guy.
No.
It's the biggest lie that they tell you when they tell you you're too high. That's the way to tell you, hey, go away. I got somebody that I have a relationship with, and I'm not interested. And you were way too high. And I tell you what, they've never looked at it. And I've tested this. This was funny because when I was out in San Antonio training Christy White and Darren White, I go, "Christy, we're going to submit this guy a ridiculously low bid. We're just going to do the lowest bid you can do." And the guy told us we were too high, and he never looked at the bid, man. And I go, "Christy, I did that intentionally because I know he wasn't going to look at the bid." I said, I go, and he goes, "What if he does look at the bid?" "Well, we're going to say it was a mistake, because it was obviously a mistake, and I proved to her, and she was like, "Ron, how did you know he was going to tell us that we were too high?" And I go, "Yeah, they never." I go, "Now do you understand? He never looked at the bid because he has a relationship with somebody else and he doesn't care. And it's just the easiest way for you to just sweep you out the door and say, 'Hey, you were too high. I'm not interested. Thank you very much.' Boom. Yeah. And you're done." So Bruce Martin, how you doing, man? Bruce is on there.
Nice. Yeah,
you got Lexi. Lexi is one of my new favorite distributors down there in Tampa. I don't know if you know Lexi or not. She works for Heath Phelps down there, general manager of the Tampa store. So she's awesome.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's a long road, man. I mean, 2008. I'll just tell like we were talking in the green room. I didn't tell all. You know what I mean? And Pat knows that. And there was a couple of reasons. One, I don't know if I was sure or ready to be that guy at that time period. And then two, I never tell anybody everything until they start doing some of the smaller homework. If they can get the smaller homework done and they can start, and this is how a lot of my students are watching now, because I got a lot of guys right now, they're frustrated. All they got to do, Pat, is go out and do 15 or 20 demos. You know what I mean? And they can't seem to get it done, and they don't understand why they need to do it. You know what I mean? Because putting the demo out is part of the process, which I know in Greenville, when you had your sales training, when it was live there, you would take them on a walk and you would go do a live demo. And just like I did in Orlando and many other places, what happened? We would close the job right there in front of the people. And then the class could actually see, oh my gosh, they just closed a $30,000 job. It's done. It's over with. When can we come and get this done? And people don't really understand the power of that. Now, that's not the same as building a relationship. That's just what do you want to say? The wow factor, showing them that they have a immediate problem, and then they're concerned because they didn't realize that the problem existed. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. That they go, well, I'm not going to go do a demo. I'm not doing anything for free because I'm not going to, and people don't understand it's all acquisition costs, and you and I have talked about this before. If you go out and you do the demo, and it's this, maybe it's a job, and we'll get into what you were talking about how long it takes to really build relationships. But if you don't go out there and show them that they've got the problem, they just don't know that they have the problem. And then they just don't know, because everybody just makes an assumption that they know what a surface cleaner is. They know what pressure washing really is. They know what soft washing is. Even less guys even know what soft washing really is. I mean, they just don't. And then guys all the time, I'm going to eyeball. I love the ones that are going to eyeball everything. Don't you love that? And one of the cool things you always did in your training, Pat, is, and I think you overkilled it, but that's okay. You overkilled it, the measuring. I mean, you just put a stick on everything, and with you putting that stick on everything, you knew exactly, by science and math, you knew exactly what this square footage house was going to cost, or what that square footage house was going to cost. So you knew exactly where you were at and how much you were going to make. And it's funny because a lot of these guys go, well, I'll get a salesperson out there. And I'm like, okay, but if you give a salesperson a close rate and you have no science and math behind it, and they'll just be closing everything they can close for their 25% commission. And at the end of the day, you're holding the bag like, how come I'm not making any money, man? You're losing money on every job that you do. Meanwhile, the salesperson's got a bigger house than you. He's got a brand new car.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I always say math is the path, and that's exactly it. You got a job cost your stuff, and then you can really track, and then you can scale, right? Like it's tough when you're the only person doing the sales. You can only do that for so long. And then you bottleneck the whole company. And it was like, I found that out, right? And I was like, shoot, I need to replicate me out in the field. And that's why it was like, I noticed when I started measuring everything, people were like, oh, the last guy just went, and he's like $400 today, right? And he's not looking at the house. He's quoting it over the phone, and you're adding value. And so going out in person, my tickets were larger, and there was a lot to it, right? Like it wasn't a one-time buy. When they meet you, right, you build trust, number one. They like you, and then they like your company, and then they're going to stay with you longer. And like we had, I don't even know what it was, but off the top of my head, I have it in a spreadsheet, but the repeat rate on people that were coming back, we found that when people spend more money, right, they're happier. And it was like, man, you wouldn't think, because I mean, anybody that's watching right now, if you have jobs that are $200-300, they're the most pickiest people. They want more for free, right? And then you get a bigger house. They're spending more money and they don't want anything. They trust you. They're like, you're good, man. I trust you. And then they're gonna come back. And so that's with commercial too. You build that reputation because these are pro buyers. And when you do the due diligence and you're not just half butting things, you take the time to get to know that person, get to know their property, and then add value by doing what we talked about earlier, talking about new things that are in the industry, showing them things that they wouldn't otherwise see that you do see because you're in that field. and then you're bringing value to them. Like we would take, 250 to 500 pictures, of a property, and then we would create a whole sizzle reel for them on safety, on before and after pictures, on customer testimonials, all on their own property. And then we would have raving reviews from their tenants at their property, and say, hey, if you want us back again, if we did a good job for you on your home, which it's their apartment complex or whatever it may be, their condo, they're going to tell the property manager that we want Bright Brothers back. And that's what it's all about, is like making them look good. I think was the biggest thing. And you had your packages and your pricing, your quarterly and all that stuff, and I was like, man, when I was getting into it, I didn't have that. I was one price, and I'm like, here you go.
Everybody thinks you invented packaging.
No. Nope. I just take a lot of resources from a lot of people, right? But no, you had the original, I think, packaging from the commercial stuff, and that's where you put those together, you give them options, and if they were a manager and they're managing a property, you got to think like in their shoes. It's not their money. And so do they want to spend it? Yeah, they want to spend it because they want to, make the property look good so their inspections go good. But in reality, if you have 3 prices, they're probably not going to pick the most expensive one because they might get in trouble, right? They're like, why'd you pick the biggest package, Pat? Or you're not going to pick the smallest package because you're like, why didn't you go with the bigger package? They're going to pick in the middle of the road a lot of times because that's their like not get in trouble package.
Well, what a lot of guys don't realize is they have a number that they can spend, right? They got the number without anybody's permission. The money's there, right? They got that number. They might move you into that number on package B, but eventually there's money that they either allocate from marketing or somewhere else that they didn't spend. And it comes time at the end of the year and they have that money left over. And how many times have we heard it, man? I've got, $30,000 left in the budget in something or another. And if I don't spend it, I'm going to lose it. Let's go ahead and wash those 3 shopping centers, the whole, and the next thing you know, you're washing, instead of $1,000 ticket on sidewalks, you're doing a $30,000 wash on the building, and people don't realize you're the guy. There's no, they don't go out and get 15 bids like everybody thinks they do. You're the guy that they use. You're the guy that they trust. They're just going to go ahead and let you do the job. And they openly tell you this is what they have. Now, are you going to, if the job only costs 15, you're going to charge them 15. You're not going to charge them $30,000. You're going to do what's right, because if you do get, you don't want to get caught doing something janky, because then you're going to lose their trust and you're going to lose all their business. A lot of guys don't understand that either. Everything's got to be fair in business. People think it's all about sometimes taking advantage of somebody. These are people with business relationships, and they want to know that they can trust a guy. And let's talk about that, right? Let's talk about that whole deal. That's why I never say come off of the price, okay? And I think you know this, Pat, because if you come off the price and all of a sudden you've come from, let's say 10,000 to 4,000, well, you were trying to rip them off to begin with. And right out of the gate, that doesn't look good. Yeah, it doesn't look good. And guys don't understand that. And you'll get managers that'll do that to test you. They're not really not really caring about whether they were. They just wanted to see where you were at. And they may be doing that because they got 3 other bozos that came in at 4,000, and they want to know, why are you charging them 10? And now this is up to you now to say, well, guess what? We showed you that demo. You've been having it and paying 4. The place is still filthy. You're not getting anything. If you want me, and this is why I always turn it on to them, and listen to my words. If you want me not to clean the place too, I can do it for 4. And you're just being real honest with them, but you're not going to do that. But you've got to sometimes, you got to really go back to, hey, why did they seek you out to get a bid to begin with? Because you probably got a referral from somebody they trust. And they said, hey, get this Pat Clark guy. He's the guy you want to use because he does all my properties, and what a difference they are now that we've been using him him for service, because there are a lot of shady guys out there. It's sad to say, and it's not good for the industry. It's not good. Guys all the time go, well, that'll be more business for me. No, a lot of those guys hurt the industry more than they help, because people seek other ways to do things because they think, well, I'm not going to pressure wash. Last time it just looked horrible. There was zebra strikes all over. The guys didn't detail anything. It was all, it made their property. It made their property look. Oh yeah, how about they leave the mess in the parking lot, right?
Exactly.
Like, they cleaned my sidewalks, but now my parking lot's trash.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
How many times you've been coming around the back of a shopping center, restaurant, and you see all the stuff on the dumpster? You're just like, oh my gosh, do these guys really do that, man? You're like, holy cow.
The little things, you know what I mean? Bring a shovel.
Yeah.
It's like
and a broom. That's what that's called. I'm a power washing guy. I don't have a broom and a shovel. I'm like, okay. Just like the guys that don't wash windows that are pressure washing. I'm like, man, I wash more windows than window cleaning companies, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So the bottom line for these guys, and we wanted to talk a little bit about this, when you're doing commercial and you go back to that budget letter, it's an 18th month cycle, to even necessarily. And does that mean that you're not going to get work? I'm training these two guys. I hope they're watching. They're Freddie and Moses, and they're competitors in my area. And I always train my competitors. These guys have been out about 2 months. They've worked up about $8,500 worth of residual income, just doing boom, boom, door to door, doing demos, right? And I try to explain to them. I said, hey, the real money is going to take. It's an 18-month cycle. I said, but while you're out there knocking on doors, opportunity is going to present itself. Yeah. And they wound up knocking on a door. It was funny because it was the very first shopping center I took them to collect the information and get the information. The woman called about 3 weeks later. She had a problem and had an owner flying in, and she needed not that shopping center, but 2 other shopping centers done. And she couldn't get a hold of her guy. And I told them, hey, you know what? They go, are you sure we're not bothering her? I said, man, she'll call you back if you're bothering her. I said, you're going to call her and keep calling her until she responds to you to tell you to stop calling you, or, she blocked you. Okay. Then then it's there. And I'll be darned. Call comes to them. They're all excited. She calls. She wants 2 shopping centers done in 48 hours, And I was like, okay, but you got to talk maintenance with her. And so they wound up getting these 2 centers $1,000 each. So that was their first $2,000. Then they landed a restaurant group, which that was all that busy work that they were doing. They landed a restaurant group for another $6,000. So they're up to about $8,000, $8,500. And all that was when opportunity presents itself, and they're continuing to do the long game and play the short game, because there is a short game, and you can play the short sales. We all know that those are the ones you go out, you do the live demo. And I was going to talk about this acquisition thing. People don't realize that when you do the live demo, you cut the number of turns that you have to go out and actually sell the client. It now goes to either 1 or 2. You do not have to go out more than twice. If you put a live demo in front of somebody, you're done. That 8 times on average that it takes now, the 8 times it usually takes, just went to 1 or 2, because, excuse the pun, shit or get off the pot at that point, right? I mean, you saw how bad your place is. You either want to take care of the problem or you don't. Yeah. And people don't realize that it goes back, and I mention it all the time, the Kirby. It's funny that we can mention that, but everybody listening has some kind of Kirby vacuum cleaner somewhere in their bloodline. There is a Kirby, and that's just a testament to how well Kirby did selling vacuum cleaners, and people don't understand that was all demo driven sales. They would come in your living room, right, Pat? Blow a clean line right across the middle of your living room, and your grandmother or your mother or whoever it was would be like, oh my goodness, because they were stay-at-home domestic people at that point in time when Kirby was really doing that. And that was their job, man. Their job was to clean the house, and they were like, oh, I got to have this vacuum cleaner. And of course, Grandpa would come home and saw she wrote a $2,600 check for a vacuum cleaner.
So true.
But that was it. And so, the acquisition cost, going back to that, you
Mhm.
really save money. You're not by doing
Oh, yeah.
demos, you're saving money because you're not going to have
Time,
to
money.
visit them 8 times and they still don't know what you do, you know?
Yeah.
And now, Pat, everybody has a cell phone. They
Yep.
put that little video demo, the live one, right on their phone. They give it to the decision maker. So if the decision maker has to go upstairs to get permission, they got the video and they can say, "Hey, look, blah blah blah." And people don't realize that's exactly the video that created these guys from closing one restaurant and turning that into a $6,000
Mhm.
sale by closing 20 other restaurants, because the general manager that they gave the demo to was able to give it to the district manager.
Yeah.
The district manager saw it and then wanted to meet them. And then the next thing you know, wait a minute, don't clean his store. Here's 2 other stores I want you to go take care of. Get those cleaned and we're going to sign an agreement with you, but I want to see how you do first. And there's always the audition, right? You
There
always
is.
got to have an audition, and people don't realize that. And that's all about building that trust. You
Yep.
know, they're going to go out there and test you. They're not going to test you. Pat, you never walked in and they said, "Here's the $10 million contract,"
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I
Nope.
mean,
Nope.
it
Yeah,
doesn't,
here's the smallest property we own. Here's the, here's the test. You're gonna show up on time, you're
you
gonna
know.
do a good job, and then it slowly works into the whole portfolio.
Yeah, and I tell that story a little bit about that where, and we don't got to go into big detail on it or even what it was, but I remember, was that 2013? You called me and said, "Hey man, I got this problem. It's 6 months old. The guy was telling me I got a problem with this community. You know,
Yep.
didn't think you took care of the breezeways the right way or something like that."
Yep.
And you
Yeah,
go,
no,
"What should I do?" And I said, "Pat, I didn't say, I asked you to
yeah,
solve your own problem. I said, Pat, you got to solve
yeah,
your own problem here." I said, "I know what I would do." And I go, "And I think I know what you are asking me to clarify for you." And I'm like, "Yes, go down there." And I told you that on your way back,
hmm
that's why Craig Harrison says I'm the pressure washing prophet. I said on the way back, he would sign more agreements with you if you went and took care of the problem. You didn't even get back to Greenville and in your inbox. How much was in your inbox when you
yeah.
got back?
It was like 130,000.
130,000 in your inbox
Yeah,
because you went out and took care of a problem. And I always try to tell people, sometimes these people, when you're on an audition, they're
yeah,
just trying to test you. They're
yeah,
testing you. Sometimes there's no problem. They just want to see what's this guy going to say if I got a problem. They just
yeah.
want to know, is he just going to keep making excuses, or is he going to say, "Yes, sir, let me go out and take care of that for you and get that handled?" And that's what they want to hear. But a lot of guys fail that. It's part of the audition. They fail that part, and then they go out and they don't do anything. And the next thing you know, bam,
That's right.
they're not getting the work. Pat's getting the work
Yeah,
because he went out, because Pat, just like we do things, like sometimes with employees and stuff, they probably hired 2 or 3 other companies to do other
oh, probably.
properties. And you were in competition at that time, didn't even know it. Maybe your other competitors failed the test.
Yeah. I
They might have
mean, granted, now this wasn't something in my backyard. This was an 11-hour drive. So, we got off the phone and I got my sales guy and I said, "Dude, we're going down. We're going to go take care of this." And so we literally went down there in the sales vehicle and we took care of it. It took, I don't know, I think it was just a day. So we drove down. It took us a day to drive down, took us a day to do the job and a day to drive back. And then sure enough, like you said, we had those emails for those properties. Hey, sign contracts. Let's go. So that was awesome.
It was awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome little story. Well, we're 28 minutes, man. Tell what is it you want to tell these guys about sales? I mean, I just I love your Goya. I
hmm
mean, it's just a big thing. If you guys want to know what Goya is, it's get off of your ass. I mean, the bottom line is Pat always had that up in his office everywhere. And it really is the truth. I mean, if you want to make things happen, you've got to go out there, and knock on doors and build these relationships. Commercial accounts, let's face it, if they this is my take. If they come via the internet, they're probably going to go as fast as they came. If a call comes in from the internet, they're just not as good of a lead as somebody that you've been working and nurturing relationships through, referrals through, word of mouth through in the commercial world. I'm not saying that's the way it is in residential, because I think commercially, some people are using, they're using the internet now a little bit more commercially. But I think that if you sat behind the keyboard and you thought you were going to make a living off of commercial calls coming in from the internet, you would be sadly mistaken.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm with you there, because we get internet leads for commercial, and it's more of, I have an inspection, it's emergency, just come out here and do it. I just need to get this off my plate. It's not that relationship thing. Now, when we go out, we do the
Start
relationship
building it. Building it. Yeah.
So it is a foot in the door, but those a lot of times those leads, they come and they go, and you know what I mean? And it's not like the ones we sought out that we really built the relationship with that stays for a long, long term. No, but I'm not saying they can't, right? We've definitely had internet leads that do, but a lot of times they're shoppers. They call 4 people. You're in line. I usually get there and they're already just got done with somebody, but you gotta really be different. You got to remember, these guys are pro buyers. And so you got to stick to your guns. You got to stick to your price, because they will say you're the lowest guy all the time.
Are you using my pro buyer thing in your teachings now?
Remind me what it is.
It's a pro buyer. It's somebody that does that for a living. I mean, that's what they do. I don't think these guys realize that all these people do that we're trying to build relationships with are buy services. That's a pro buyer.
Yeah.
That's a pro buyer. You know what I mean? And I know sometimes when I would talk about that way back when, people are like, what's he talking about? Pro buyer, because I think most 90% of the guys that came to these educational forefronts that you and I both taught at, they're residential one-man operators.
That's right.
90, probably 8% of them, 98% of them. More guys now, though. I've been finding out there's a bigger following out there of guys out there that are trying to build residual income accounts out there. It's a bigger thing, and it's a bigger thing right now, because guys now, and see, that's the problem with waiting. When the residential's good, the residential's good. Okay. Mm-hmm. But when the residential's bad, that's when everybody's going like, man, I need to get some of this commercial. I need to get some of this commercial stuff. Well, now you're on I say it's 18 months, but like I said, opportunity can present itself, and you can sell something the first day you go out and knock on doors.
Yes.
But more than likely, the real money, the money that's going to sustain the company, it's not coming fast. It's going to come building an 18-month relationship. And like I said, read the budget letter, but we'll kind of preface it here a little bit. There's a cycle in commercial buying, and the cycle usually runs probably about a 90-day buying time. And it starts now. It just started about a few days ago. And it's going to run all the way with bad companies, all the way till the end of November. Now, some will go even further than that. And because it's an election year, okay. And I don't know if you know this or feel this.
Run into it, yeah.
Because of an election year, sometimes they'll do nothing. Okay. They're waiting, and they're sitting there and they're just waiting. And guys don't understand that, like, just be patient, because they're waiting for November 5th, and as if it's going to matter, because it's not. And Pat knows this, because he's been through the ups and downturns too. And it really doesn't matter, because they're going to spend the money. And like I said, if you guys would read this, most of this money that I'm going after, maybe not all the money that Pat's going after, but all the money I'm going after, has an average of a 5-year reserve. It's in a nonprofit corporation status. It's in a 5-year reserve. And the person's job is to spend the money. And they don't care if there's a downturn in the economy, because that's like them saying, hey, there's a downturn in the economy. I'm laying myself off. Yeah. I'm going to give myself, and we'll be back when the economy, that ain't going to happen. They're like, let's spend some more money. Come on. We got to go. Yeah,
We still
because
gotta
I need to make my job important and know that I'm still in existence, because people don't understand that if they don't spend the money and they don't do that stuff, they're not doing their job, and they potentially could get fired. They could get fired for not spending money, Pat. Isn't that
Oh,
crazy?
yeah, it
Not
is.
fired not to give us the money.
Yep.
How do you like to go out there and clean stuff when those are the terms?
Yeah.
And people just don't realize that. And Pat's probably never heard me on a video publicly ever even talk about it this candidly.
No. Nope. Nope. That was stuff, yeah, you got in the classroom, behind the scenes type stuff, because like that's a mind shift for a lot of people, is like, what do you mean they have to spend the money, right? You don't think of it like that. And so with these pro buyers, they're looking at bids all the time for different things, right? And that was one of those things I learned in that meeting I snuck into, right? There's a lot of expenses that happen with these large corporations, and they're looking at the plumbing. They're looking at, all the different things that they got to spend in these different, categories of budgets. And so it's in there. Power washing is in there. You just got to be there. You know what I mean? Be there, be the vendor, and you'll get it. So it's pretty cool though to see all, how that works. And like you said, it's got a 5-year, it's protected. It's there. So they have it because they have tenants and they got stuff they gotta, hold.
It's not their and it's not their money.
Exactly.
That's what they get paid to do. I mean,
Yep.
they just get paid to do it. And it's a little bit crazy when you think of it that way.
Yeah.
But that's how it is. Hey guys, I just threw up the link to that. If you guys can't find my front page, that's the link to that budget letter. But you guys really need to go and read that, absorb that. And Pat, we need to do something regularly, man. I'm gonna pin you down. Let's just do it once a month. How's sales going? At least let's do it through this budget cycle and see what the atmosphere is like, especially being an election year, right? Like
Yeah.
let's talk about like our guys actually closing stuff and his stuff. Because here's the thing,
Yeah.
and I always tell everybody this: when I say good companies, most good companies in the next 45 days, they're going to niche up their budget for 25. They'll be reconciling now for 20, for 24, and finding out that if they're going to increase their budgets for 26. And they're doing that like in the next couple of months. And here we are, we're in 24, and I'm here talking about 26 to you already, and a lot of times that, and Pat's been there, he's been there like this. They'll say in November, hey Pat, we're putting you on this one because this was our budget. You let us know we need to increase it.
Yes.
So guess what? Next cycle, we're going to be able to raise that up and do more of that stuff you told me we need to do, because they want to do it. They do. They want to do it.
And it's so cool to be that person, right? That they're asking, hey, do I need to increase my budget? And I'm like, dang, but you have to have trust there, right? Because they're not just going to ask anybody, because they're like, oh yeah, sure. Of course you're going to increase it. And you say here, here, and here as the expert is like, these are the things you need to do. This is what I'm seeing on your properties, and be that voice, and yeah, you'll get in.
Pat, we forgot. What are you doing now, man? Tell everybody what you're doing now. Just give us a story about it, because I love what you're doing. I love the idea of turnkey. I think that in the past we've had franchising stuff happen, and it always hasn't. I guess it hasn't always worked out very well. Remember the car wash guys? Do you remember Lance?
Yeah.
Lance got indicted. He didn't do what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He played the franchise game, probably in our industry the most successful. Okay, but at the day's end,
that was early on.
The most unsuccessful, because he wound up getting fairly indicted. But and I don't want to talk negatively about it. It's not negative. It was a very good thing, because he brought to I think the detailing community, because remember, he was a detail guy, and he was the car wash guys, and he went out there and promoted that like nobody ever promoted it. Sold 140 franchise operations, and there are still some of his guys are still in business to this day. They operate independently, obviously, but he was very successful with it, and it was a good. It really was a good thing, and we've got some other I won't mention any of some of the other names, but we've got about 2 or 3 other old franchises that have been on board. They're still operating here in Phoenix, but nobody really has taken the franchising thing by storm since Lance. And 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 why is that? And then share with these guys what you're doing with that, because we gotta talk about that.
Yeah, no, I'm super pumped about it because, I mean, back when it was Precision Pro Wash, we were doing the licensing deal and we were growing locations, but we weren't all on the same CRM. We weren't doing the same exact things. And so, when we looked at it, we really wanted to scale it. And so with Bright Brothers, my business partner, Larry, we went out here to Connecticut. He has an awesome, awesome facility there with, all these resources that I wanted to do that I just didn't have. And so we partnered up and we formed Bright Brothers to do exterior cleaning and holiday lights like nobody else, right? Like we wanted to have it basically all the systems there. We have the call center. We have all the pieces there for you to succeed. Obviously, it's still a lot of work, right? Like people starting a business, it's not, roses and stuff. You still got to put in the hard work, but we have the systems, we have the checklist, we have all the things for you, the support, the videos. We have the School of Entrepreneurship. It's a 3-year course. I mean, this is like a college course for business where we have leadership. We have, there's just so many resources where you can job cost. And it's something that has never been in our industry before with the leadership, the training that you can really get. And so with Bright Brothers, we're growing it and it's exciting to see, creating opportunity in our industry that people can really jump into, have all the systems and hit the ground running. And it's cool to be a part of it, right? Like that's what I do best. It's kind of like honing in, you know what I mean? Like operating the business for 18 years in it and still going, right? Is like going state to state.
So many guys are so negative about franchise operations, but I've watched these guys in this industry spend $100,000 on some equipment, some training, and they could have spent way less than that and had a team of people behind them to help them succeed. Instead of, hey, when the money runs out, I'm no longer answering the phone. Wait a minute, you don't have any more money for my coaching calls? And then, you're done, and it's funny because that's about the time I get people when they're broke, then they'll go, okay, I'm going to go listen to Ron Musgraves. Cause it's funny in Atlanta, we were at the Atlanta meeting with the Young Guns. And I don't even remember that. Do you remember that? I said, hey, how'd you guys find out about this place? And like 4 guys go, your haters told us not to come. I go, yeah. Yep. And you showed up. I said, they go, yeah, we did. We love it. But it's funny. It's funny that guys get so ramped up about like, oh my gosh, these franchise operations are going to take over. No, they're not. Mm-hmm. They're going to raise the standards of the industry and they're going to even make the independent operator probably more money, because there are some people, that are just, it's crazy, but there are some people that just want to, that warm and fuzzy feeling of trust when it becomes to a franchise operation, it just is what they want. They're just like, hey, they got a big old organization behind them. I know if they come out here, I know that they've done all the background checking on the employees because I read their website. I know that they're taking care of this. I know they're going to follow up. They got a guarantee there. And if I have a problem, they're going to have somebody out here. And, I can trust that if I got my wife and my kids home with this big, they somehow there's a perception. It's not always the truth, but it's a better vetting process than hiring Chuck in the truck. And I'm sorry, Charles. Sorry, Charles, because Charles Daniels, it's a little bit better. And in that situation where, they are going to feel a little bit more secure as far as having that organization, because I'm sure you guys do background checks. I'm sure that you do all those things. And those are things that you like probably push. And guys don't think that it's a big deal in commercial, but these commercial clients, they really want background checking as well, man. I mean, they really do. They really, Yeah, they really want the background checking, because people don't think that like it's an issue, but they have safety of the consumers that are on the properties.
Yeah.
They have the safety, and it's a public place, so they definitely don't want some. They don't want some creep or somebody on their property that's roaming around their property, especially when they've got it's even if people think about this, it's more dangerous in their situation than somebody's home. Because in a home, they're in the home, lock the doors, and that's it. But on a commercial property, there's a lot of people that they're just on the property, and a lot of crazy things can happen. And not even just the standpoint of just creepy people, but safety. You know what I mean? Slip and falls, stuff like that. They want to know that there's a company there that's doing the things right, proper BMPs for environmental, proper BMPs for safety. I mean, we don't talk about this, but how many people don't realize that when you submit a proposal with a safety BMP and another company doesn't do it, nobody realizes what a liability that
Yeah.
company has now hiring the company that didn't submit it. Because if a problem happens, lawyers are going to all go back to the drawing board. They're going to go back to the drawing board and go, wait a minute, you didn't hire Ron or Pat Clark and you hired Chuck. And that's why, Becky now has a broken hip. Now you're making your liability way bigger, way bigger. But that's cool, Pat, that you're doing that. Tell us more about the Bright Brothers. How many operations do they have now? Because I saw that thing's massive that you were in there today. I mean, that's a crazy. I gotta get up there, man, and come up there and do a video with you, man, because it looks pretty wild. So
It's really cool.
What are they doing? And can you talk about the money they got for acquisitions and stuff like that?
I can't yet. Very soon, because we've been open now about a year, almost a year. We basically launched the corporate location in September last year. So, we're coming up on a year there, really growing leaps and bounds. It's really cool to see. 2 trucks. We have 3 sales guys, and the team is like on fire. They're doing really good. So we started off with residential, and now we're getting into commercial. So that's really cool to see them following the system, getting in on all that stuff. And so, just building. We have South Charlotte location. I don't know if you saw that video. Colin is the owner there. So you can go to Bright Brothers on YouTube. I just texted you a link too, if you want to put that in the chat. But you can go to YouTube. You can check out the video there. But Colin's there in South Charlotte, doing excellent. Got an amazing shop there. He's kicking off his first truck and getting his team built. And then we have, I guess it's in Florida. So we're looking at Florida location, looking at a second territory in Connecticut. And so it's really cool to have, the momentum coming. The team is very, very strong. They're super smart with franchising and with branching out. They've done this so many times. And so to partner with a company that's done this nationwide is phenomenal. You know what I mean? They take the ball, they run with it. And then we have a team called Brand One, and Brand One, they basically promote it. And so we got the huge convention coming up, which I'm super pumped about. So we're going to be there. We have a Bright Brothers booth at the huge convention. So you guys can stop by, see us there, say hello, mention you watched this, but we'd love to see you there at the huge convention. But, for more information, that link right there, you can go to brightbrothers.com. And you can find more about the franchise there. And then there's a small form if you're interested, you fill out there. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, man, going from zero to hero, and we're gonna keep going.
That sounds cool. Sounds interesting. It's gonna be a fun little journey. What do you say, man? Can we commit to once a month sales videos? Can we do it?
Yeah, we
We'll
can
try
do
to
it.
keep them to a half an hour. We went 48 minutes, but we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say? Wrapping it up?
You're wrapping it up, man. We're gonna say Goya. So get out there, man.
Get off of your ass. You ever met James Van Handel?
We've met 1 or 2 times. We've talked a bunch. James is the man. He crushes it in the the commercial field as well.
I love it. I met him, and he's one of the only guys. He'll go out there and say, "Ron Musgraves has made me millions of dollars," you know. And I was like, "Okay, Jim, what did I do, man?" Because like, you know, he goes, "Man, when you were at that Tom Vogel meeting, it was I think 2008 or 2009. He had spent some time with me, you know, I don't want to say privately, but he kind of got me off in the corner, and he got more out of me than most guys got out. And he realized that I try to focus in on like, hey, there's just a program that you have to basically build these relationships with these managers. And I said, once you put that program together and you start building it, you don't ever have to worry about sales anymore. I mean, they're just going to keep coming in because they're just going to keep it just kind of like it really is a pyramid thing. You know what I mean? Because once you start working for these people, just like in our industry, we have influencers that people trust, right? They go, if Ron Musgrave says buy that skid, you know, I'm going to buy that skid, and they trust it. There's the same type of people in that industry. There are leaders. And when those leaders are using Bright Brothers, or they're using Pat, or they're using Ron, they call up their colleagues and say, "Hey man, who are you using?" "Oh, this guy, you know, Pat Clark, he is the best in the business, blah, blah, blah." "Oh, give me his number." That's it. They trust you because that person said you are the guy. And then right away, it's like you say, it's a pyramid effect. And you wind up not only working for that manager, but the 10 other managers that are in the office. Those 10 other managers refer you to another 10 other managers. And the next thing you know, from there, you're busier sometimes than you want to be. Yeah, that's what I always tell. It's funny that James is chiming in there. He goes, "I listened."
Yep.
Yeah, he listened, and that was the funny. And then he's agreeing here with what we're saying. All those people are connected, and that's it. And that's exactly what it is. Because it's a very pro buyers are very tight community. I'm going to conclude with this one tip, because I always tell people, join their networking, join their organizations, join their things, but be very careful how you wear that badge and use it, because there are just as many people that love their organizations as there are that dislike their organizations. So when you're going in and you're talking, like, say, if you're a BOMA CAI member, make sure that they're a part of that organization before you ever bring the name up, because you could cut yourself, you can cut your left arm off. You're a BOMA member? Get out of here.
Exactly. You straight up, get out.
Get out of here, man. We don't want nothing to do with that. So you got to always remember that sometimes they're networking, but their networking is a little smaller and a little tighter. And sometimes and I'll tell this to these guys, sometimes they're the big boys. Sometimes they're the guys that are bigger than those organizations, and people don't realize that. Like I've worked all my life for a guy that's the 17th largest he's the 17th largest developer in the world. Okay. So he's got properties and casinos and hotels all over the planet. And he don't like the organizations. The funny thing is, he goes to them. This is that scenario. Like, he'll go to them and he'll participate, and he might even join them, but he can deal. If you talk to him, he can't stand them. He says, "Oh, they're always trying to run, too much regulation and stuff like that," because that's what these organizations do when they get big. They start sticking their nose in stuff. And he's like us. He's a pioneer on his own industry. People don't know this. BOMA was created in in the 80s, so it was created after I started my business. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of these organizations were, because they didn't exist. People don't realize how young the pro buyer industry really is. We didn't talk about Triple Net and Cam, but we're going to talk about that the next time. Because if they learn what that is, and they can learn that lingo and understand how that starts, maybe some of this stuff we've been talking about budgeting will click.
Yeah,
will click in their head.
Agreed.
Pat, always good, man. Guys, check this link out I put up there. Pat wants you guys to check it out. Check it out, and especially if you watch this video and you're a guy that's either having a hard time with it or struggling, I'm not going to tell you this is a magical thing. I'm going to tell you that what happens is when you belong to an organization or franchise operation, a lot of guys out there, you can go struggle and do all these things. And people say, well, I can't spend that kind of money to belong to an organization. Hey, man, you're going to spend that kind of money trying to build your business.
That's exactly right.
You're going to spend more money. And if you spend the money to join an organization like a franchise operation, guess what? Day one, you might be working. You might. That's not a guarantee. There's no guarantees in anything. But day one, you might be working. But I can guarantee you this: day 2, 3, or 4, you are going to be working. And they've got processes that put that stuff in the pipeline for you, and you stay busy because they've cracked the code. They would not be doing a franchise unless they'd cracked the code. Okay. And I know people are going to go, well, what's the code? The code is something, if you go try to learn it on your own, you're going to spend thousands. And we've watched some guys spend their entire savings. And I'm talking $200,000-$300,000, and they wind up going out of business. You don't want to be that guy necessarily. And I'm not trying to scare you into, but I would go check it out because it's an option for some guys. And like James was saying, it's cheaper than college. The bottom line is that, this learning curve on this industry is not only different because of the demographics of where you're at and the type of cleanings that you have to do, which nobody talks about. No one ever talks about how cleaning in Phoenix, Arizona is completely different than cleaning in Greenville, South Carolina. Nobody talks about that. It's even different in the Northwest than it is in Florida. San Diego, a completely different animal. They're out there, they're out there with surface cleaners up on roofs, washing the tile because that's the only thing that works. There's no magic potion. I was out there. I don't know if AC. It was funny because we were AC had rented a Mustang, so we were driving up PCH in it, and he'd have a bottle of bleach in the trunk, and we'd see a roof, and he'd pull over, and he'd be trying to spray the roof, and he was trying, it's not working. And we drove up and down the coast, and only thing I ever came up with, and I don't know what his analogy of it was, but I think because of the salt air, and what is sodium hypochlorite?
Yeah, salt.
And I think that whatever that bacteria was had, basically immuned itself to anything that it would grow no matter what you threw on it. It wasn't going to die, and that's why these guys out there, Jeremy and these guys in San Diego and stuff, everybody sees the videos of them with the service cleaners and like, hey man, I've been there. It is the only way they can clean a roof. They cannot get the roof clean.
I've never been out there. That's
any other way, and people think that they're nuts. Here's another. Hey, if this guy ever calls you, man, help him out, Pat. He's a good guy. He's been following me for about a year. He's listened some, but I hope that he heard that he got James. I'll put this one up for you, Eric. That was James right there. And I don't know what James sold his business for, but it was millions of dollars. And I met James back in 2008. Nothing's easy. He built a company over 20 years and wound up, cashed out and sold. And James is somebody we should get on this podcast with us. We should really.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Get him on this podcast with us. But
yeah, James is awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks, Pat, again, man. We will talk to you later.
All
Ron
right.
Musgraves, guys. Pressure Washing Institute, Contractors First, guys. Go to National Cleaning Expo. Didn't get a chance to mention it, but I am going to get together with Pat. I'm going to do a sales meeting in Greenville, South Carolina within the next 3 or 4 months. And Pat's going to be a guest there along with, who's the other guy I'm thinking about?
Mike Claudio.
Mike Claudio, because he's in Greenville, and I've been following him for about a year. He doesn't know that. I've been following him for about a year because he's got some good stuff, and he's a good Christian guy. That was the reason I was following him. But I'm going to follow him too, guys. So, guys, check it out. NationalCleaningExpo.com. Ron Musgraves, Pressure Washing Institute. We're out. Say adios, Pat.
See ya. Take care, guys.